This is the NAIA Football Podcast. NAIA Football with Dannelly and Donley from the Victory Sports Network. NAIA Football with Dannelly and Donley is brought to you by the Victory Sports Network. And we do also like to say thanks to our friends at Huddle for helping you bring us all of our breakdowns of video of the games when those start to happen. That is provided by Huddle. Thank you very much for joining us as we get set to unveil the NAIA 99 here tonight, the top 99 players in NAIA football as we enter the 2026 season. I am Jason Dannelly. Maybe for some of you that are new to the program, we get new viewers, listeners each and every year because, well, there's new kids coming in to play NAIA football, and you're going, who the heck are these guys? Who's that guy? Why is he talking? Why does he keep showing up on my Instagram feed? I get it. I'd like to look at somebody else too. Somebody else you don't want to look at. Pat Donley. How's it going, buddy?
It's going, buddy.
Intro.
What an intro. Yeah. Hi, everybody. Good to see you again. It's the summer months. It's such summer months, Jason. I'm not even prepared. I forgot to turn my light on. Like, I'm a mess. We got to get in the swing of things here with football season right around the corner.
Yeah, we usually throw like this intro on. We got John Gruden firing us up, and I got another thing I'm going to add this year. So I'm halfway through editing what the intro to the show will be this year, and none of the viewers care. They probably watch this pre-recorded and then skip right to the parts that they want to watch. But so we go a little generic on the intro this year. So big news. So in the last couple of years. And Pat, you and I have talked about this behind the scenes, and we'll get into the NAIA 99 here in just a second, folks. But just little housekeeping issues. Over the last couple of years, we've sought out sponsors, and we've had some sponsors, and a little bit here and a little bit there. And as you and I have both talked, like it is a lot of effort to go out, court these sponsors, court people to bring money into the show and into the Victory Sports Network. And this year, I just decided, you know what, we are going to go completely supporter driven. So if you are a supporter of the Victory Sports Network, you like this program, you can make contributions on victorysportsnetwork.com. That pays for this streaming, the hosting of the website. And then if we get enough for the funds, then we look at traveling to the national championship game and all that. But all of the funds in the initial part of it are for, as I would call it, the day-to-day operations of the Victory Sports Network. So no pressure. You want to do it? Great. If not, it's cool. Like this will keep functioning. It's just the level of comfort and time that I end up having to do all the things that we do here with the podcast and with the website. So everybody, if you can, please donate.
Please do. It's just, we're just paying the costs, your costs, essentially, Jason. We don't make any money on this thing. It's just something that's a passion project for you that you invited me in as an old football coach in the NAIA for a long time. And you invited me in a handful of years ago and to do this thing. It's something we enjoy. It's something that you've been so passionate about for a long, long time. And we've been doing this now. Is this year 4 now, I think, Jason? Not quite a full 4 years. We kind of started mid-season.
Yeah, it was like October. It was like October 8th, 15th, something like that. We started.
We were a bit late on that season, but it's been a lot of fun. We really enjoy it. And, again, it's not something we have full-time jobs. We work, we work a lot in other jobs and other careers. This is purely a fun passion project of ours that, we're just looking to cover costs. And it's something for you in particular, with what you do with StreamYard and things of that nature. And you put a lot of time into it and effort, even in your own money out of your own pocket. So that's what you're looking to do. And, folks, I definitely encourage if you can donate a little bit. We're not looking to get rich, believe me. I've never taken a cent from Jason or anything at all. Even had an opportunity to go to the national championship in a different way, kind of killing two birds with one stone, to see family and had some friends and all that last year. Jason kind of went on his own dime, but we'd love to go back there as well to cover the national championship. And by the way, you want us there, folks. You championship representatives, you want Dannelly and Donley there. So I tell you what, there's people there that are fun, but you want Dannelly and Donley down there, hosting a party and having a good time, because there's no one more passionate about the NAI, and two guys are pretty fun too. So just put it out there.
If cold beverages are around, we'll enjoy a cold beverage with you. Yeah, absolutely. Nice Coke and Diet Coke. Yeah. Hey, no free plugs though. No free plugs. They want mentioned on the show, they can put some money in there.
That's right.
But no, it's, and I'm pretty transparent with it. Hosting of the website's like $60 a month. streaming on StreamYards was $800 a year. My friends over at D2 Football said, wait till your renewal comes up. It's like, oh, I'm going to that probably is going up. So like all told, it's like somewhere between it, like for the hard costs of the website, right around $4,000. When we start talking about travel to the national championship, it almost doubles that, gets up to about it. So it's not a lot. And for the amount of effort that I was putting in to get the sponsors to cover those costs last year, it ain't worth it. I know there's supporters out there that support us and have. You can see a list of those sponsors on victorysportsnetwork.com. Just go to the top of the page, click donate. It's all there. All right. No housekeeping. Pat, it's football season, baby.
It's August, so it is football season. And, guys, teams have reported, we're seeing those teams in practice. We're seeing social media. We're seeing those videos out there. Guys are in pads, man. You're seeing helmets and some pads cracking out there. It's football season, no doubt. So it is time to talk NAIA football, Jason.
It is time to talk about the NAIA 99, the top 99 returning players for NAIA football. Before we get into that, this week also released the rating of all 96 football teams. We're not going to go through all 96 right now. We'll real quick do the top 25 before we get into the 99. But really, no surprise at the top here, Pat. Anybody that's known me for any amount of time, if you won the national championship last year, barring you leaving the division or having just wholesale changes within your program, you're going to be number one to start the next year. I feel like you got the championship belt. You keep the championship belt till somebody knocks you off. And the same can be said with the runner-up Kaiser, 1 and 2 there. Now, then it gets fun after that. College of Idaho, 3, Lindsey Wilson, 4, Montana Tech, 5. That's a good group of football teams right there, man.
All 5 of these are awesome. I think, there's so many question marks with really all 5 in a lot of ways. I think if you look at on paper, if you're really doing some studying and reviewing of these rosters, COI is real interesting, Jason. Mm-hmm. That's a physical football team. It's an experienced team. Love the coaching staff. Love the scheme. Love everything about them. And I think that's a hungry group. Coyotes, that's kind of a cheesy way of saying it. Anyway, the Yotes are a hungry group. I'm really excited for this team. That's one. Obviously, Grandview guys. I mean, come on. They've been there last handful of years. Grandview, back-to-back national champions. I'm anxious to see what they do from replenishing an unbelievable core. Now, there's some guys that are still, carry over from those championship teams that are still there. They're leaders. Kaiser seems to be replenishing every single year with, local homegrown talent every year. But COI is one of those teams, Jason. Keep your eye out on them. That's a team that I am a huge fan of.
You could argue in the top 5, the teams with the biggest question marks are 1 and 2. Just with the amount of guys that they graduated from last year and what they've actually got for returning starters, they're the biggest question marks in this top 5. Now, they were 1 and 2. And they've been the best teams in the country for the last 3-4 years here. So, yes, they are a question mark. But you and I, when we start, I see some of the things on social media, and it's like, oh, this team's going to do it this year. This team's going to, and people aren't even including Grandview or Kaiser in the conversation. I laugh. I'm like, they're in the conversation. They've earned that right to be there. Lindsey Wilson's got a ton back. Great running game, great quarterback, great wide receiver. The defense coming around. Montana Tech, same thing, quarterback back. And same with some other really talented ball players that we're going to talk about in the NAIA 99. This is not a program just to do the top 25. We got to get into that. All right, rest of the top 10 here. Fall Benedictine, Indiana Wesleyan, Friends, Morningside, Marion. Again, another solid group. Guys that made the postseason last year, teams that made a run, teams that are making a name for themselves. This is a good group. I've got Friends at 8. They lost probably one of the most dynamic players in NAIA football in the last 10, 15 years. I mean, Cavante Baker at quarterback, they've got to replace him. So I know they've got talent there. I know they've got a quarterback coming in that's going to do the job and be able to run the offense. But I've got some question marks there. But they've still earned that number 8 rating. Indiana Wesleyan's got a ton back. Benedictine, probably the question mark in this group, along with Marion with some of the losses that they've got. But still, solid group of 5 right here.
No question. I would put Benedictine very in a similar categories you have the 1 and 2 with Kaiser and Grandview, with a lot of talented players, experienced players playing at a national level for the last handful of years that they're having to replace at key positions. But great coaching staff, tremendous program, tradition. Anxious to see what they do this season, no question.
Yeah, absolutely. We move to the next grouping here, 11 through 15. You got Dort, William Penn, Carroll College, Southeastern in Florida, and McPherson College. Dort, kind of the co-champion last year in the GPAC with Morningside. They're right there with the Mustangs. I think those two teams are going to battle for that conference title again this year. You have William Penn that came out of the clouds last year. They've earned that number 12 rating after how they represented last year. Won a first-round game against Texas Wesleyan before dropping in the postseason to Friends University in that second round. Carroll College right there. Southeastern, continue battle-tested team, made it to the postseason last year. New coaching staff this year. Still a lot of talent. And I think the question mark with Southeastern the last couple of years, really has been they've had a great defense. Their offense maybe just hasn't been putting up the points that you'd like to see or that you need to have to beat the St. Thomases, to beat the Kaisers, to win that league. And I think they've got an offensive mind coming in there that's going to make some noise for Southeastern this year. And McPherson's got a ton back. I actually picked McPherson to win that side of the KCAC because they've got a ton of talent there. So again, through spots 11 through 15, extremely solid.
Very, very solid. And I think those are teams that have a tremendous opportunity to make a name. They're right there. They had great seasons last year, but a couple were on the outside looking in. Some got in and maybe dropped round one. This is a big time year for those programs, but teams on the rise, no question.
I would be willing to bet, I'll just skip back here, somebody in spots 7 through 15 here, one of those teams is going to end up in the top 5, possibly top 4. Just given where they're at and how their season will go, if they continue to win out, you're going to see them pop up because I think we will see, some upsets at the top of the NAIA ratings. All right, spots 16 through 20, St. Thomas University, St. Francis, Indiana, Montana Western, Campbellsville, and Dakota State. Now we start getting into some question marks a little bit. Now, I think St. Thomas, they've got a new head coach in Drew Davis. They graduated some solid ball players last year, but I think they're still going to be in that range of 7 to 15. They're going to be solid. St. Francis as well in there. They've got to replace a quarterback. They've got to replace some talented ball players. But then you start getting into the Montana Westerns, the Campbellsvilles, the Dakota States. Now you've got question marks. You've got teams, that can do this. They can rise or fall pretty quickly here.
Yeah, no question. I'm excited about Drew Davis taking over at St. Thomas. My alma mater, St. Francis. I'm looking forward to the matchup at Campbellsville in week 1. I think that'll be very telling of where those two programs are. Campbellsville with a new staff and St. Francis replacing a lot of that great talent that they had. So that'll be very telling for the season. I think this is a great group as well, similar to the previous group of teams that on the rise, on the move, into that postseason. Some of these teams were in the postseason last year and made some noise and have another chance to make their way up into that top 25, even higher, and make some noise in the national scene.
Dakota State, the first team that we have in this list that was not in the postseason last year. Well, I guess Montana Western as well, but Dakota State did not make the postseason last year. They are a hungry football team. They could stay healthy at the quarterback position. I think they could make some noise. And then our last spots here, 21 through 25, we've got Evangel, Ottawa, Arizona, Georgetown College, followed by Reinhardt in Southwestern. Solid grouping here. I think Evangel's the best team in their league. They're probably going to win that division, make it to the postseason again. Ottawa, Arizona has seemingly on paper been at the top of their conference the last 3 years, but had upsets late that kept them out of the postseason last year against Louisiana Christian. Georgetown College had some injuries last year. Now they've got some ball players coming back, some experience coming back. They could be on the rise. You've got Reinhardt, who made the postseason last year, a team that is hungry to go deeper. And Southwestern returns one of the top quarterbacks in the NAIA this year in Jamie Odom. So there's some noise that can be made in spots 21 through 25.
Yeah, some traditional powers there that I think are back on the rise, like you mentioned. Some sustainability is a necessity there. Like you mentioned with Ottawa, Arizona, I think, just finishing the season strong, getting themselves in the postseason, getting an opportunity. Georgetown, is there a bigger blue blood than Georgetown College? Second year with coaching staff, some sustainability there and staying healthy. Reinhardt, is there a team that's more talented year to year than Reinhardt? It's a big early season matchup with Lindsey Wilson, I believe, is at week 1, Jason. I think we're going to talk about that game. Yeah, Lindsey Wilson. Great matchup early season, one opportunity for them. So there's some opportunity for this group of teams this season, no question. And great leagues, early season matchups to prove their merit.
I think any time that you have a new head coach come in, sometimes they can really sustain that first year, maybe not the full level of success, but still have success. I think we saw that in Georgetown College last year with Coach Perrin, taking over as head coach last year. The questions this year, Southeastern is one, St. Thomas is one. These are programs that have been up there, have been successful, and I think they're going to retain success. But sometimes in that first year, there's a game that gets dropped here or there, or it goes the other way. You flip the script and you're able to rise. So we've got a lot of things that we could talk about. But now that we've gone 15 minutes into the show, it's kind of like the warm-up. It's kind of like Pat and I got out there, kickers and punters, did a little stretch in here. We got everything underneath us again here to get into the guts of this show. That is the NAIA 99. That is the top 99 returning football players in NAIA football for 2026. Now, this list does not include kickers, punters, or long snappers. I don't include them because I feel like statistically, those are positions that are defined by their statistics and how they're going to do this season. Certain kickers end up getting All-American because they hit a 58-yard field goal and go 33 of 36. Yeah, it makes sense to have that guy as an All-American. Maybe they don't get the opportunity to make a kick like that this year. Are they all of a sudden not as good of a kicker? No, they just weren't in that situation. So I don't include them. You can go to the statistics. There's a lot of really good ones back. So if you are a kicker, a punter, a long snapper, or a parent thereof, a fan thereof, I make my apologies to you now. They are not on this list. So with that said, let's start on the defensive side, Pat. Our top returning defensive backs in NAIA football. You can see the list there. A lot of really good ball players here, Pat. Starting off with a duo from Benedictine in Isaiah Hassan and Dylan Witherspoon. Both of those guys are back. Another duo from St. Thomas University and Keon Martin and Jerome Mitchell, both returning for the Bobcats there. This is a solid group of returning DBs, some big playmakers here.
Yeah, playmakers. This group, defensive backs, it's so difficult to play these positions. It's corners and safeties. You have to be multi-talented. You're on an island so much in pass coverage, and you have to be tacklers. In today's day and age, it is it's a balanced attack most teams deploy against these defenders. So you have to be able to be stout in the run game. You got to be obviously defend the pass. And these guys do it exceptionally well. So I think it's a talented group. I thought last year, these guys and the group that we saw last year on tape were just exceptional. And then you get like a game every once in a while, Jason. You got to go defend. My goodness. Triple option football.
Oh, yeah. Yeah. Friends.
Friends. Thank you. Yeah. And Cavante Baker, you got to go defend them. And you have to revamp your entire structure. And your secondary guys are setting the edge and defending the run and supporting, option football. So there's so many things that these guys have to do and be multi-talented. So, and then you got to defend, elite passing game like Morningside the next week. So with that being said, these guys are incredibly talented, and this is the best of the best in the NAIA.
Yeah. And the other thing you look at, and people will always point to statistics when it comes to DBs. And sometimes, like the guy that leads the country in interceptions, yeah, he's really good. Also, there are some guys out there, one of the reasons that they have interceptions and a lot of pass breakups, they get thrown at a lot because they do give up some big plays. So it's a position that, for me, I rely on coaches' evaluation. I rely on some statistics, and I rely on all conference teams. If you're first team returning all conference, I'm going to listen to who the coaches feel are going to be the best players in the NAIA over scouts a lot of time, because a lot of times with scouts we're pointing at stats and we're saying, yeah, look at all this. I'm like, yeah, but the one thing you're not showing on video there is the 75-yard out route that he gave up because, he jumped the route. Anyway,
just a little peek behind the curtain, Jason, how we used to do it when I was voting for all conference. Our staff used to hand, like, for instance, I would coach receivers and quarterbacks. I used to vote on the DBs because those are the guys I watched all the time. So who did I not want to throw at? So that's how we did it. Like our offensive line coach, he voted on the defensive line. linebackers. So that's how we did. I'm assuming most of these staffs would do the same thing. Kind of makes sense to do it that way. Those are the guys you're evaluating all the time. It's like that guy was a pain in the tail to go against. And I'm assuming that's what most staffs do to give these, all conference voting, proper evaluation. Because I tell you what, man, like watching DBs, like you watch enough of these guys, you realize, and you're playing your game plan. It's like, I'm not messing throwing at that corner. Like that guy is just, we're going to go away from him. He is maybe on a double move because he's so aggressive. We can get him maybe one out of a few. Yep. I'm not going to make we're not going to make our living going into him consistently. We're going to go away from him. So 100%. Put a little perspective on it.
Linebackers, let's get into them. Here's what's coming back this year in the NAIA, our top returning linebackers in the NAIA 99. A solid group here. You've got a pair coming back from Marian University and Wyatt Woodall and Cade Houseman. A solid core returning to that defense for the Marian Knights. And then, kind of spread out across the country here. You've got a kid from College of Idaho and Carroll College. So good representation out of the Frontier Conference here. Good representation out of the GPAC and the Appalachian Athletic Conference. I mean, it's overall, there's just a really good group of guys returning here. Pat, when you look at this, is there a name that just really jumps off the page and stands out to you? Or like, oh yeah, that guy is solid. He's a stud.
I think those guys in Indiana. I think Indiana Wesleyan guys and Marion guys are tough.
Yeah.
It's almost like, it's like the Big Ten Division I level. It's a tough brand of football in the mid-states. Those guys are so good. I think St. Xavier had a great pair last year. It seems like Marion and that Indiana Wesleyan, that Sylvester kid, they're tough football players. And again, it's in my backyard. I've got a little bit more awareness to those guys. I love those guys, and I love the Frontier players. I think those linebackers, when you think of linebackers, you kind of think of those type guys, the Midwest, and kind of those, out west, tough, physical guys. That's what you think of. Not to take anything away from those other players. I think they're tremendous as well, but I have a pretty good awareness of those guys. Good football players, what you want and what you think of when you think about linebacker play.
I don't even want to butcher it, but College of Idaho's got quite a few kids that are actually on this list for good reason. So Elton, as we'll call him, Elton Saosu. We're going to go with that for the pronunciation. See, if I were more prepared, Sue, 9 months ago, you and I were talking about this before the show. 9 months ago, I was dialed in. I knew that. Now my brain is saying it 17 different ways. So somebody in the comments, somebody will email me after the fact here, and then we'll get it right for the rest of the year. But College of Idaho, this really good group of returning linebackers here.
Physical dudes at College of Idaho. Yeah. Both sides of the ball. That's their identity. Again, big fan of that team.
Yeah, absolutely. All right, get into the returning defensive linemen. Again, another kid from College of Idaho on here, and Tucker French. You've also got Zach Queering from Dordt University, Jamel Smith, Georgetown College, Nolan Simpson at Grandview, Kenny Ray out of McPherson College, Lester Amos, also from McPherson College, so a pair of defensive linemen there. Cole Graham, Montana Tech, Corey Floyd Jr., Ottawa, Arizona, Caleb Ballard from St. Ambrose, and Quincy Colossus from William Penn. Solid guys up front there. In looking at McPherson's defensive line, the Amos kid and the Ray kid, ton of tackles for loss right there, a bunch of sacks. That's a solid group that they've got returning. It's one of the reasons why I'm high on McPherson this year, is just the number of returning guys that they have that performed very well last year.
It's huge. Look at Grandview last year. That was a returning defensive front. Absolutely huge. So if you have that, the depth and the experience, age in those units, the offense and defensive lines, it is essential. It's great for McPherson. You look at like Tucker French coming back, he's a mainstay on that defensive front, great player. Simpson coming back on that great defensive line. They had some turnover there, but he's a returner, going to be a leader for the Vikings and the returning, defending back-to-back national champions. Those are guys that are going to be a big-time deal, the defensive lines for these teams.
Yeah, these guys are going to wreak havoc. And the thing I love about defensive line, there's so many defensive lines where you got a stud, and you got a few guys kind of by committee in there. Then that stud graduates. And one of those guys that was kind of in the rotation last year, but got that experience, he's going to pop up. And I will guarantee, I'm not saying end of the year, this is going to be first team, second team All-American, but there's going to be a name on the defensive line first, second team All-American that is not mentioned here and just has a whale of a season this year. Those are the things I look forward to, is those guys that, finally get their opportunity and become a star for a year.
Jason, you'll see so much, especially in this position. You could say in the O-line and maybe in the linebacking court a little bit too. It's going to take time. Typically, you don't see defensive linemen as true freshmen come in and make an impact. Just not going to happen. Yeah. It's a man's position, especially in the interior. Every once in a while, you'll see a pass rusher jump off because it's about speed and just being a better athlete at times. When you see the interior guys, it's going to take a 20, 21-year-old, 22-year-old man sometimes of being developed, getting strong in the weight room, buying into the program, taking some time and experience to really pop off as a player. It takes some time. So again, what we talked about experience, like guys at McPherson, for instance, and we talked about Grandview last year and some of those top end teams, that's important. So I think this position, maybe more than any other, is indication of that, how important that experience is in developing bodies and being bigger, stronger, older players. Very, very important.
Let's move to the offensive side of the ball and the guys that are going to be defending those defensive linemen, the returning offensive line. And again, this starts to show you when you look at teams that I'm high on this year, teams that I think are going to be very good this year. A lot of those teams have got names on this group for returning offensive linemen. You got Indiana Wesleyan with 3. They had 3 first-team all-conference players last year, a returning All-American, guys that just got it done. With them being rated in the top 10, the pieces are definitely there for IWU to make a run this season. And then you've got teams like Friends University. They've got an anchor on their offensive line. They graduated quite a bit last year, but Kyrie Watkins is back, and he was one of the best offensive linemen in all of the KCAC and all the NAIA last year. You start going through the rest of this list of names. You got Reese Byerly at Marion. You got Larry Montgomery at Lindsey Wilson. Zach Thierry at Montana Tech, just a bunch of guys in the top 25 or just outside of the top 25 that you've got to have some leadership returning on the offensive line. Heck, I look at Taylor University and Hayden McDonald. You're going to have another Taylor University player coming up on this list in just a little bit, and having that offensive line with the experience and with the ability to get out there and open up holes for running backs. I mean, that's going to be key in their offense and to a lot of these offenses, Pat. So solid group here.
Huge. Yeah, I'm seeing tons of mid-states guys, a lot of guys from Indiana. Indiana Wesleyan's done a really good job in recruiting. They've done a tremendous job in this region pulling talent. And I know Byerly from Marion, who was a brother, recruited his brother. He's a big kid, big athletic kid. It seems like, here in this region, just tons and tons of good 6'2" to 6'4" offensive linemen that are being developed at the NAIA level. I've always said that, Jason. We kind of go back in the history of this program. I believe our NAIA level offensive linemen are as good as MAC level offensive linemen. They're just not 6'6". Yeah. That's the difference. They are 6'2" to just under 6'4" typically, maybe in 6'1". You'll see a 6'1" interior guy that's unbelievable, who could probably play at the MAC level if he's 6'4" as an interior guy. We got great tackles that are 6'3". They're just not 6'6". They can't play at that, that little higher level. But they're unbelievable players. Like, you watch our guys at this level as pure offensive linemen. They're awesome. They're just a little bit short typically. And I think you could probably say that about this group. None of these guys are, 6'8", tackles, 6'7" tackles. Yeah. They're at the higher level, but they're tremendous football players, and they are creating unbelievable opportunity for their offenses. And it is such an important thing. Obviously, cliche, having a great offensive line is important, but these teams, what a great starting point of having a great offense, of being strong up front.
I saw it on social media the other day, and I can't attribute properly to the coach that did it. He was a JUCO coach, went through and statted every offensive lineman, like their measurables, 6'2", 285 for every level, and then averaged it across Division I, FCS, Division II, Division III, and NAIA. And NAIA offensive linemen did rate in larger and bigger on the measurables than the D3 guys. They were behind D2, but just went, and it really speaks to, what you're talking about here, that, I think some people get the attitude that, NAI football, everybody's just, a little smaller, not as athletic. That's not true. That's not true on the offensive line. And there's, statistics out there that prove that. Let's move on to the guys that they're blocking for, the running backs out there, the top returning running backs in NAIA football. Here they are. solid group here, some really good playmakers and guys that are going to help make teams go this year. You got a pair from Southern Oregon, and a lot of that's due to Gunnar Yates being an All-American 2 years ago and then missed last season with a hip injury. So the Raiders had to rely on somebody, and it was Fresh Ison, and he is back this year. So you've got a duo there out west for Southern Oregon that can really help bolster that offense if you're able to find a way to get both of them into the game. After that, also in the Frontier Conference, you got Riley Byington coming back at College of Idaho, real physical runner, really came into his own the later half of the season. You just kind of watched him get better and better throughout the entire season. You got Dalton Van Pelt coming back for Grandview University. You got Darius Neal, after missing last season due to injury, back this year for Georgetown College. EJ Sykes, who led the nation in yards per carry last year, is back for Friends University. This is an athletic group, a talented group of running backs returning in NAIA football, Pat.
Yeah, this might be the most talented group that you put together, Jason, honestly. A lot of experience. I think Darius, this is my 5th season coming up, Jason, being out of coaching. I think Darius was playing when I was coaching. It's been around a long time, Darius Neal. Big fan of his. Glad he is healthy and back for the Tigers at Georgetown. Awesome player. Hopefully Gunnar Yates is healthy. A huge fan of him. Love how he runs the football. Riley Byington, man, he's a workhorse. Needs to stay healthy, needs to have some depth, I think, at that position for COI, of the type of football that they play. I think you look down the list, Saunders, awesome player. And I think they got to develop, another back there as well, because they're such a balanced attack in that air raid system at Lindsey Wilson. Dalton Van Pelt, man, is there more of a mainstay, steady player in the NAI than Dalton Van Pelt? Does everything well. Deceiving speed, but physical, can catch it out of the backfield, just does everything well. Great leader for that Viking team. What a good kid, too. Got to meet him at the national championship. Big fan of his. I just love this group. Just fantastic young men, ones I've got to be around a little bit, and just huge parts of their success for their football teams. The Wallace kid, St. Francis, a young player, one of the few young players on here. I think he's an exciting player for my Cougars. Looking forward to his season this year. The Parker, a kid at Taylor down the road from us here, is an exciting player for the Trojans, who's a team that's on the rise as well. It was so close, just on the cusp of a postseason berth last year for Taylor. So this is an exciting group. Big fan of these running backs.
I think the two most versatile guys on this list we didn't even mention yet, Jaleel Brown at McPherson and Eamon Williams at Pikeville. These are guys that are going to run the football, and they're going to catch it out of the backfield, and they're going to play a little bit on special teams too. So, those are running backs that are really helping their team and driving that offense in ways that maybe some of these other guys they're a little bit more of the bell cow back, just getting the ball out of the backfield, run the ball, run the football, not really thinking to, catch it out of the backfield. But the talented group. And Pat, you bring up a good point. You bring up Dalton Van Pelt. We have not spent a lot of time, around programs and going to games and getting to meet kids. And, after the national championship game last year, we had the opportunity to be around the Grandview fans and a lot of the players, and met a lot of their players. And it's just like, oh man, that's a good kid, man, that kid, that's a good kid. And that's dangerous. Maybe that's one of the reasons why we shouldn't go out, because I'm pretty sure if we went to these games and met these kids, we'd think every kid in NAIA football is just an awesome kid, and we'd become a big fan of theirs. We have to remain a little bit impartial, right?
A little bit, yeah. Van Pelt's my kind of guy. He's got jeans on, boots, got a belt buckle on. He's like as Iowa gets. Yeah, I like Van Pelt, man. Yeah, I had a heck of a football game in the national championship game, and he looks like, and he just ran for how many yards in that game? Looks like he's ready to go play another one. He just looked great. Yeah, he's happy, and yeah, what a good young man. Big fan of his.
All right, let's talk about wide receivers and tight ends here. We got 2 top tight ends coming back. There's a few more that I just barely left off this list. Simon Vincent at Indiana Wesleyan, Grant Scott from Pikeville. Those are the 2 tight ends on this list. And then an extremely talented group of wide receivers. Man, where do you even want to start on this? Do you start with, probably the most dangerous athlete in NAIA football, and Levi Torgerson? Do you talk about the guy that's probably the best pure wide receiver in the NAIA? I almost need to bite my tongue here, because do you put that on, Eli Norse, or do you put that on Drew Sellon? I mean, which one do you go with there? So there's just a ton of guys here that are returning, that are solid. And Oh, there it is. There's my. I was unable to read there for a second, Pat. I couldn't find Drew Selland on my list. I'm like, did I leave the best wide receiver off? No, I didn't.
No,
He's
you
right
can't do
there.
that.
No.
Selland is an all-around great football player, tremendous
Mm-hmm.
route runner. He's one of those guys that I would love to coach because you can tell he understands the game so well. He understands coverages. He understands proper releases, how to settle in zone, how to win one-on-one matchups in man. Like I've watched enough of him as a player, just understands the game so well. He can execute. Love how he plays. Torgerson's like that guy. Man, he's like, Swiss Army knife, can do it all. Great in the return game, obviously. Can make plays. You throw him a shallow cross, and he can take it 80 because he's that dynamic guy with a ball in his hands. Just can do a lot of different things. I love D'Souza. I think he's fantastic at Kaiser. What a dynamic player he is. I like Mariero. Did I say that right? With
Mariero.
He's a big guy. I remember 6'1", 6'2", 210, big physical guy. Go up and get the ball at the high point. Really out muscles people. Physical receiver. So I like that type of player as well. Love watching what he can do. Vincent's a great player at Indiana Wesleyan. They got so many weapons with that great offensive line and a great quarterback we're going to talk about here in a minute. Then of course the guys that are highly touted, is Norris. Is he like in contention for some records? I think for production. I think Jason, if I'm not mistaken, for Montana Western. I mean, he's up tons and tons of production in his career. Just incredible. So this is another unbelievable group that have tons of production. And, have had great careers up until this point. All these guys go in their final year of eligibility, big time years on the horizon for many of these guys.
Yeah. I mean, this is a position where you get just some of the most dynamic athletes in NAIA football. When you talk about Max Gainey for Lindsey Wilson, he's so critical to their passing game to go along with Saunders in the backfield. You've got a great duo out of Montana Western. I mean, this is just solid. Then you get a guy like David Zeller, who's a great wide receiver, but was a special teams player of the year last year in the Sooner Athletic Conference. So, and then, you get a name on here like Cam Bosak from St. Ambrose. And I think some people might look at that and go, St. Ambrose, they weren't very good last year. Why is this kid on the list? Returning leader in yards per catch. So he averaged 22 yards per grab last season at St. Ambrose. So he's a guy that can obviously stretch defenses, get down the field, make plays for the Fighting Bees. Really good ball player there. So a solid group of wide receivers and everything here. Because of me and my old radio days, I put quarterbacks last because I know that's the one that everybody wants to be. Who'd you put on for quarterback? Who are the top returning quarterbacks? And then everybody's going to tell me I'm wrong because I'm missing this guy. And that's fine. Here's your top returning quarterbacks in NAIA football as we see it in no particular order. Caden Hewitt from Carroll College, Caden Young from College of Idaho, Trey Heddick from Dakota State University, Aaron Lothy, Indiana Wesleyan, Jamie Odom from Southwestern College, Tate Rice, Lindsey Wilson University, Brody Johnson at Midland University, Jarrett Wilson from Montana Tech, and Christian Dew Reed from Olivet Nazarene. Think about just about every one of these guys, Pat. If you fired up your old coaching genes again and decided to start a program, you'd probably take any one of these guys as a 4-year starter if you could get them.
I would have a hard time who I'd take first, to be very honest. I would like to start.
It's like, what's your program? How do you want to define it? Do you want a guy that can sling it? Do you want a physical guy that can run it, throw it pretty well? Do you want a leader? What guy do you want? Sorry, I cut you off there.
No, you're good. I think they all have unbelievable traits. I think the frontier guys are all interesting. And I think you kind of lump them all together similarly in this way. I think they all have to build consistency. I think they all showed flashes last year of greatness and unbelievable leadership and flashes of, man, is that tremendous. Hewitt, for instance, I thought he showed like some physical attributes. I think he's a transfer from a higher level. Man, you can see some physical ability. You can see some incredible talent, running ability, but had some turnover issues. Had some things that he's got to clean up. And I think another year in the program, I expect great things from him this season. Jarrett Wilson from Montana Tech, I think got better and better and better the more comfortable he got. Of course, the run game and their balanced attack is essential for him, and the complementary pieces with play action game and having that solid run game to complement his talents. But man, what an accurate passer. And I think once he has, when he's comfortable having that balance of run and pass, what a tremendous player he is. Excited for him this year. And then Caden Young, he's a runner, man. And that system is so reliant on the balance and having a dual threat quarterback. But, I think they got to be real careful with him too, because he's so valuable what they want to do. Kind of we talk about, the last handful of years, do you run your quarterback, throughout the year and get him banged up? Do you do that? A lot of these teams have done. Yeah. I mean, let's talk about, what Grandview had to do the last few years. I mean, you have to make a decision. Do you want to do that and put him in risk? I mean, I don't know.
Yeah. And it's tough because there's games that you're going to have to, that's too good of a conference to hold anything back early in the season. You've got to try to get them out there and win ball games. Otherwise, it ain't going to matter that you kept your quarterback healthy the entire season if you lose games because you don't play to your strengths.
And you can see Waring being held back a little bit at times over the years in the regular season, and then he'd get unleashed in the playoffs and he becomes this National Player of the Year threat. So I think Young's kind of like that to some level. So it's going to be interesting how they use him, throughout that gauntlet of a schedule in that league, which is as tough as any. So, I think that's important. So, do they utilize him more in the run pass option game where he is more of a thrower, which I think he throws it very, very well. I thought he played exceptional in the playoff game against Montana Tech. I thought he was awesome. So I think he has that ability to make throws. So those three guys are really interesting to me because I think all three can have just absolute breakout years this season. And Young really kind of did in the playoffs last year, in my opinion. So all three of those guys are really, really interesting to me. Tate Rice, production personified last year. I mean, he had huge a year and could even take it to another level. And again, I think you were going to jump in there on the Frontier guys, but those three are really interesting to me, kind of starting there.
No, I was actually going to jump in. You've got some dual threat guys that you're talking about there in Hewitt and Young and Heddick and Rice, like those will do. But in terms of and Christian Reed, in terms of guys that maybe are more of a traditional passer. I mean, you look at Aaron Lothey, Jamie Odom, and Brody Johnson, on this list. Lothey, 41 touchdown passes last year. Odom, 41 touchdown passes last year. Lothey averaged 328 yards per game last year. So, I mean, these are all guys that put up awesome passing numbers and lost some talent at the wide receiver position. So it's going to be interesting to see how they come back, who that new person is that they bring to the forefront to be their, number one person that they sling it to, or however it is that you be. But it is a solid group of guys that you maybe just look at here that are just your traditional quarterbacks, guys that you're going to sit back in the pocket and sling it a little bit. Lothey being that personified in what Indiana Wesleyan runs for their offense. So, it's like we talked about when we opened the conversation. If you're starting a program, it's like, well, what's my offense going to be? What am I looking for? Because I think each one of these guys personifies that just a little bit.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I mean, Lothey's a part of that system. I guess it's Indiana Wesleyan, but it's the Steve Ryan Morningside system. I mean, it's going to be quarterback centric. It's going to be tons of production and run pass option, and the ball's going to get out in a hurry. Then they're going to take the shots when necessary. And Lothey is incredibly productive, makes great decisions. And I think another year of experience is going to be huge. And he has a great run game with a great offensive line. So I think, Indiana Wesleyan is going to be a power, no doubt. And I'm a fan of Reed as well. I got to see him a lot last year. And I think, again, another year under his belt, experience coming back with a pretty good team around him as well. I think he's a talented player. Big fan of his.
Well, and even this is a solid group of returning quarterbacks, but just as I run through statistics from last year, I mean, there's some really good quarterbacks that didn't make this list because, I got to cut the line and put the line somewhere. But, you've got guys like Ryan Markarian from McPherson, not on the list. CJ Dixon from Peru State, not on the list. Jet Engel, Campbellsville, not on the list. I mean, there's a ton of Rugby Ryken from from Mount Marty, a guy that can sling it all over the field, not on the list. But you have to draw the line at some point. So I get excited for programs at the NAIA level when they're returning quarterbacks, when they're returning dynamic players, and the list is far beyond what I've got, here to my right or left, depending on if you're watching this straight on or if you've reversed the thing, whatever, over there. It goes far beyond this list. And just seeing guys like this return just get me excited for the season, get me excited for NAIA football, man.
Yeah, don't forget too, Morningside's going to have a guy that's productive.
Yeah.
So will Benedictine. Yeah. You know what I mean?
Yep.
The new guy will be productive. I guarantee it.
Mm-hmm.
There's guys that we haven't talked about yet that will emerge as stars. I guarantee it.
Yeah,
because they always do. St. Xavier's guy will be good too, probably.
Yeah, I mean, there's just programs where the guy that comes in is going to lead them, and he's going to be pretty good. And you mentioned 3 programs there, and there's probably a handful of other ones that graduated guys here in the last year. That'll be the same way. So with that said, that kind of gets us through talking about just the NAIA 99. We've got a few minutes here left because we want to try and keep this show at about an hour. We want to give you, we want to like wet the taste buds a little bit here for NAIA football, but we don't want to give you too much and have you going, these guys for the entire year, you got to put up with this for the entire year just to find out a little bit more about NAIA football. It's okay, folks. We'll wrap it up here in just a little bit. So we're going to talk about some of the top games as the season gets started here. Anything on the NAIA 99, Pat, though, before we move on? Anything from you?
No, great job on your part. A lot of research there. Yeah, it's a great group. And again, I think it's going to be, the line of scrimmage guys are obviously tough because you're going off all conference and things like that. And you take the coaches' evaluations very seriously. And but huge fan of the receiving core, the running backs, the quarterbacks. Those are kind of the tangible ones that have production. That's kind of easy to evaluate a little bit more. But there's a talented group of players. And like we mentioned before, there's going to be a lot of guys that emerge. Like, where'd that guy come from? Or that guy's a transfer from somewhere else that's at such and such college that's having a huge year. So those are always the exciting ones too that pop up out of kind of nowhere.
I should bring up one thing just so people understand how I come up with that list. So I have all the NAIA football coaches fill out a survey for me in the summertime. I send it out to them in May, remind them in May, remind them in June, give them a deadline. Like I think this year is like July 11th or something like that they had to have it into me. 92 of 96 or 93 of 96 teams sent that back to me. And in that survey is who are your top returning players. If the coach in the survey lists the person as a top returning player, then it's fair game. If they're also listed as a key loss, I know that they've graduated or they've moved on, so I take them out of my consideration. So then I go through, take that entire list of key returners, put it into a database. Every single one of them I put into a database, and then cross-reference that with all of the all-conference list, all your first team and second team and honorable mention all conferences, and then come up with a list out of that. And then that is where I start my evaluation at. So some people might say, well, so-and-so last year, they did this and this for us, and they're going to step up and do this. That's great. They're probably going to be a great player. But based on all the facts and things that I get from the coaches, I kind of base it off that information. And I will tell you, there's a lot of talk about AI right now. AI does have its real benefits when I can take that entire list, upload all the all-conference lists from the schools and say, please match everybody that's a returning all-conference player. And then I just get that data spit back out and can begin my evaluation from that. That saves a ton of time. Anyway.
It has its benefits. It does.
It does have its drawbacks too. That's for sure.
It may take over the world. But
it probably will. Pretty soon you're going to be seeing AI Pat and Jason like doing this show. It'll be called like Jatson and Payson or something. I don't know. They'll just take our images and all of our thoughts and then do games every week. I don't know. Week 0 games, some big ones. Rumor has it, I'm actually going to be at this game. Cool. Ottawa, Arizona at Montana Tech. I've got all the details yet. I probably shouldn't let the cat out of the bag quite yet. But I'm going to be in Butte for the game.
Cool. Copper game, right?
Yep. Copper game. It gives me a chance to see Ottawa, Arizona in person. One of the programs I have not seen play in person in my NAIA history of covering games. So I can take another one off the list to say I actually saw them play in the flesh. This is a big game. And they do it right. I mean, I really feel like that Copper game is like the kickoff to NAIA football because they bring in a solid team like this, play it on Thursday night in Butte, America, and you got 5,000 people at the game. It's awesome.
It's been Georgetown. Was it Georgetown last year or 2 years ago now?
2 years ago.
Lindsay? No. they've had some big games the last. I'm sorry, I'll put you on the spot here. I know Georgetown 2 years ago. They've had some big time games the last handful of years for the Copper game, and it's awesome.
We have internet.
We have the interwebs. So I agree with you, Jason. The Copper game, there's nothing quite like it. I think in NAIA football, just awesome. So I think this is a cool.
It was Montana Western last year. That's why.
Oh, that's right. Yeah. Conference game, which is kind of a rare thing. They've done kind of the kind of cross, league type thing or interconference type thing before. This is cool. And you've said this for a while now with Ottawa, Arizona, with some of those, those conferences that need to venture out to play a frontier conference, to play a mid-states, to play a Sun Conference team, to get that national exposure. Good on our Ottawa, Arizona to do this. I think it's an important thing. Don't know who initiated it, who made it happen to swing this thing, to go up to Butte to play, but good on you. Because it's a challenge. I'm telling you right now, Ottawa, Arizona, to go play in the Copper game. It's gonna be a great environment. What a beautiful part of the world, cool environment. But this is a great opportunity, a cool environment and big time game. Exciting.
Yeah, I look at it from Ottawa, Arizona's perspective. In many ways, it's a no lose situation unless you go up and get beat by 40. If you go up, you put a solid effort, you really put it to Montana Tech, and you have a close loss, or you put out a solid effort, that's a real positive towards you, because I think there's people in the country and people that are doing evaluation that just kind of think like, well, you're the best team in the Sooner, and your conference really hasn't done much in the postseason. We're not going to put much stock into you. But if you go to Butte and you win, which is a possibility, or you go to Butte and you lose 28-21. Now, all of a sudden, if Montana Tech has a season that you're expecting at the end of the year, it's like, hey, we got one non-conference loss this year. We went undefeated, and our only loss was to the best team in that conference. So you got to give them a little bit of credit there. So I think, again, like you said, to echo your thoughts, however this game came about and Ottawa going up there to play, kudos to them. That is definitely big for NAIA football. Kind of an old rivalry game of the Mid-South Conference. Now these teams aren't in the same conference, but still a rivalry between Reinhardt and Lindsey Wilson, two teams that were in the postseason last year, duking it out in week 0. So another good one, Pat.
Speed. Great athletes, cool schemes, a lot of talent on the football field. If you want to see a great game, this is at Lindsey Wilson. So I think you got to pay for a stream, which I hate. Sorry.
I might send an email on that one, see if I can get a media pass for that.
So is there an Urban Edge? Urban Edge going to pick that one up? I don't know. Probably
I don't know on that one. I do know that there are some sports information directors out there that will give you like a media pass so that you can actually watch it online. And I just have to do a better job of actually reaching out to these people before Friday of the game and getting that information.
People probably say, pay the $10, you cheapskate. But the thing, the thing is, like, that gets pretty expensive after a while.
Yeah, because it's not just one game. It's 3 or 4 games that you want to watch in a week, and all of a sudden you're spending $35 to watch 3 or 4 games every weekend. That adds up when you're guys like us.
It adds up, and then I have every streaming service known to man already. So it adds up.
Yeah,
you gotta have Netflix, you gotta have Prime, you gotta have ESPN, you gotta have all those. So. Anyway, it'd be a must-see game if you want to fork out $10.
And maybe it won't be pay-per-view this year.
I hope not, because I think it's great. Yeah. But if it's worth paying the $10, because I think it'd be a great football game, 2 great teams, great coaching staffs. I think Lindsey Wilson is a national title contender. I think Reinhardt has a tremendous tradition. I know they're going to have tons of talent, and this is a big-time game for them to stake a claim of being back in national contention once again. Anything can happen here. So big-time opportunity for Reinhardt, certainly.
Union and Cumberlands, they will be playing in the battle for the Brass Lantern. This is an old rivalry game. These two teams aren't in the same conference anymore, so occasionally this game does not happen. So it's always good when one of those long-standing traditions by two teams in a region continues on. So the battle for the Brass Lantern with Cumberlands and Union. Union going into the second year of a new staff. Cumberlands trying to turn the corner, trying to get in that upper half of the Mid-South Conference again, which is just a tough league. We'll talk about that in our next show when we go through all the evaluations of conferences and leagues and projected champions and all that, but solid game here.
These teams have played forever, literally. It's kind of strange that, obviously not not an annual game all the time. Is that what you said, Jason?
Yeah. They've
Okay.
missed it one or two times in the last 10 years since Union went to the AAC, I want to say.
Yeah.
Maybe only once, but I do distinctly remember there was a gap year in there. Maybe that was the COVID year. I don't know.
Yeah, they're not far apart, from a distance standpoint. So they've been around a long time. Yeah, it's good to see rivalry games. Kind of cool. They're playing in week 0, kind of kick off the season with a rivalry game. Great setting down there in Williamsburg, right? Yeah. Goodness gracious. Yeah, Williamsburg. Sorry. Great spot there. Shanhouse keeper there in the group. So, yeah, be a great football game. Good rivalry game to start the season.
Absolutely. All right, let's move on. I was trying to pull the stats up here real quick for Union because they do have a very good website. But I'm going to have to sort through a bunch. Oh, all-time results. Might have found it here. Oh, that's a long PDF. Let's scroll all the way to the end here because I think it was recent. Let's see. 2024, they did play Cumberland's. 2025, they did play Cumberland's. 2023, they did play Cumberland's. 2022, they did. Maybe I'm a liar. I might be a liar. Nope, 2021. 2021, they did not play Cumberland's.
Okay.
So they did miss that game that year. 2020, they also missed it for obvious reasons.
Yeah.
They've
been playing, I would say, a good 75 years, I would guess. Those programs have been around. I'm guessing they have played.
Yeah.
And I know it was Cumberland College back in the day before it was the University of Cumberland's. I mean, they've been playing football a really long time, as long as Georgetown College has at least, which is a significant period.
Yeah. So they started their series in 1905. And then they had some years there where they didn't play because they didn't have a football program at one of the schools, but have continued 45 total games between the two. And Cumberland's leads that 33-12, according to the Union website. All right, we move on. Dickinson State at Midland, nice not interconference, but out of conference game here. Frontier Conference East taking on the GPAC. Not a game that happens very often outside of maybe Dakota State getting a GPAC team. So nice to see Dickinson State going down to Fremont, Nebraska to take on the Warriors.
Always like these matchups with different conferences, doing battle. Fantastic early season matchup. What do you think of Midland this year, Jason? Because Midland's kind of always around. You're like, what do you think? And they're kind of like that 500 team.
Well, yeah, haven't had a losing record since 2015. Got a solid quarterback coming back. Got some real nice returning offensive and defensive linemen. I think this is a big game for Midland, just for the simple fact that it's a non-conference game against a solid program. Dickinson State, despite going, I think, 3-7 last year, is still one of those solid programs that you're going to get their best. And so this will be a real test. If Midland can get this game at home, start the season off 1-0, now all of a sudden, they're getting some of that experience in these big games against talented competition that they need to get them over the hump. The thing I've said about Midland the last couple of years, seems like they always beat a team that they're not supposed to beat, but then they lose to a team that they're not supposed to lose to. And that's what keeps them in that 6-4, 7-3, 6-4, sort of record. They got to get up to 8 wins. And then you get up to 8-9 wins. Now you're in consideration for the postseason.
Yeah, I think it's going to be a great opportunity. It makes us see, Dickinson kind of get things back together. It's a perennial playoff team. And again, last year is an anomaly. It's anxious to see what's going on there.
Injuries and depth, always a problem. Graduated some really good ball players, including a quarterback. So, from 2 years ago. So last year they got the experience. This year they turned the corner. We move on. Sun Conference, Mid-South Conference, St. Thomas at Cumberland. Cumberland, Tennessee last year. One of those programs. Cumberland, Tennessee is like that team you definitely don't want to play at their place. You don't want to play at Cumberland because it's a tough place to play. And they're physical. They're a team that's just year in and year out gives everybody their best effort. They're one of the more, not dangerous from like a big play perspective, but they're going to show up and they're going to punch you in the mouth. And so this is Drew Davis's first game as a head coach from St. Thomas going to Cumberland to play. It's a dangerous game for the Bobcats if they want to, continue to make postseason runs. That they've got to get this win on the road. And for Cumberland, Tennessee, with what they've got coming back, this is a definition game to start off 1-0 and to get yourself right before you get into conference play.
Yeah, big game for Coach Davis. First game as the head coach. really sets the tone for your year. And this is not an easy game. I don't know if they're going to fly. I assume this is outside of Nashville. That's
Yeah.
a long drive if you're driving. I assume they're going to fly. I don't know.
I'm
I hope they
assuming you
do.
can get a Miami to Nashville flight pretty easily. I'm
I
assuming.
was I would assume. I hope they do because that'd make things a lot easier. But anyway, it's a big time opportunity, and again, first game for a new head coach. So this is quite interesting. This matchup.
If you're flying commercially, make sure you book that return flight for much later in the day. I'll leave it at that. Yes. Taylor at Olivet Nazarene. Again, Olivet Nazarene, one of those teams. I don't think they've had a losing record since 2018, 2016, something like that. Continually 6-4, 5-5, 6-4, 7-3. Taylor, one of those teams the last couple of years that there's a point in every season for the last 3 seasons where we look at Taylor and we go, is this a postseason team? Are they going to make the postseason? If they win this game, they can make the postseason, and then things kind of go awry. They end up just right on the outside of the cusp of making the postseason. So this is a tone setter, for the Trojans and for the Tigers in this ball game. And you're going to be playing in Bourbonnais, Illinois.
This is a crazy game last year, if you remember, Jason. All of that jumped out to a huge lead, if I'm not mistaken. Was it that way?
I believe you're right.
And
yeah.
Taylor came back and won it. Interesting game. Actually, I turned it off because it was such a blowout and ended up coming down to the wire and come back, and it was a big time game. Remind me again. I'm sorry, that was a year ago.
But pulling it up right now.
Yeah, thank you. But yeah, you're right, Jason. Taylor's one of those teams, and they had some injuries last year, and they were a good football team and just got hit with the injury bug. And if they can stay healthy and the type of football they play, they're very difficult to prepare for and play against. Go ahead. Sorry.
Yeah, I was going to say, so Taylor got out 14-0. Then it got tied up 14-14. Yeah, it went the other way. And then Taylor got up 35-14, and Olivet Nazarene came back and won it in overtime 48-42. So, yeah, you're right. Crazy game. Crazy game.
Sorry. Yeah, so all of that came back and won the game. I thought all of that was a great football team last year, Jason.
Yeah.
It just kind of fizzled out at the end. If you remember, I thought one of the best games I saw last year with a playoff team against Olivet. I'm telling you, Marion and Olivet last year, Jason,
that was a great game.
Unbelievable football game. And I'm telling you, Olivet's hanging with Marion. And Marion, I thought, was potentially a Final Four type team. We know what happened last year. It was kind of an odd situation. They were in contention. Then after they lost that game, they kind of spiraled downward. St. Francis beat them pretty well after that. So I think Olivet's pretty darn good. I think Taylor's pretty darn good. They got to stay healthy. They got to sustain, what they've done and what they've been successful with throughout the year, kind of both of them. It's a long year. They kind of both of them kind of played well the first half, first 3 quarters of the season, and just kind of fizzled out at the end of the year. And I think Taylor's more of an injury situation where Olivet just kind of stubbed their toe and kind of a tough one, losing to Marion, kind of a disappointing loss, and then just kind of spiraled downward from there. So both these teams have potential of being playoff teams, but, great way to start the season. This is an old rivalry game. These are faith-based institutions that have played a lot over the years, very similar institutions. So this is a great way to start the year. Good rivalry game.
Oh, yeah, and then this one. We said it last year. I say it all the time, but because it's just so true, hats off and a standing applause for Coach Osborne, Coach Ryan for making this game happen. This has become a rivalry. And when I had the coaches fill out their survey, I said, who are your top rivals? Both Benedictine and Morningside put each other as rivals. They're not even in the same conference. This is a game that does not have to happen. These two teams do not need to play one another. They could play somebody else in the non-conference season opener, and they choose to play this week 0 game against one another. And look what it's done for their programs the last couple of years. They continue to make the postseason, whether they win or lose this game. It's the old iron sharpens iron sort of mentality with these two programs. And there's nothing better in the NAIA when you get two blue blood programs like this with some of the top talent, top coaches, top fan bases, top facilities going up against one another. And they're just right down the road from one another, basically off I-29. So this is a fantastic game that I'm certainly looking forward to, mostly because you're going to be starting 2 new quarterbacks in this game. Benedictine graduated a starter, Morningside graduated a starter. So we're going to get our first look at a quarterback that will be getting their first start of this season, at least, with this program for both of these teams.
I think two of the best coaching staffs in the country at our affiliation. And I think it's interesting, even more so this season, because like you said, there's so many new spots that have to be introduced to our affiliation. Okay, here's great coaches. Here are great coaches and great programs. Okay, this is what they have now. Let's see what what we're going to see in this football game. New coach, new quarterbacks. A lot of new key spots that have to be unveiled for us to see. And we know these guys are great coaches. These are great programs. I'm anxious to see, what they have in store for us. I'm really excited about the two quarterbacks, who they are. I don't know really anything about it. I mean, we could probably do some research and gather. Dig deep and make some phone calls, we could probably find out. I'm anxious to kind of just see like everyone else and find this out. So I think it's going to be awesome.
Yeah, I mean, I know the names, but I'm of this mindset, whether it be right or wrong, until you have started and played a game at the NAIA level or for your program. I'm not going to put like undue pressure on you. Not that there's be pressure. Some blogger that lives in Fargo, North Dakota, said your name on a podcast that a couple people listen to, but I just feel like it's better to leave these programs alone, let them develop their quarterback, and then talk about it during the season, because we're gonna have a lot of time to talk about it. We're gonna have 12, 13 weeks talk about it during the season, so we'll leave it at that. But both of them ready and able quarterbacks coming in to lead those programs, Pat, and we're looking forward.
I'm sure those two guys are ready to go. I bet they're going to be stars, and they're going to be wonderful. I've also been the guy that named a starter, and I had to bench the guy about midway through the first game. I'm just telling you, I've been that guy. Believe me. So anything can happen in American tackle football, let me tell you. I hope that's not the case for those two great programs. I'm sure these guys have got it all figured out. At the same time, at that position, it can be interesting, to say the least. So, I'm looking forward to it. Again, in my opinion, just watching NAIA football the way that we do through Huddle and all the live streaming, two of the best coaching staffs, in my opinion, that we see year in, year out. And I'm anxious to see, what they have and how they reload and kick off this season the right way with a tremendous, tremendous rivalry game. What a game last year.
Yeah. And the year before. And the year before.
Yeah.
It's just fantastic. More teams need to do it. Hey, if anybody wants me to help broker those games and tell you who you should play, go ahead and reach out. I'll find out who's got the open dates, and I'll say this would be a great one for you. Because there's some other ones regionally I would like to see. I'm not going to put those teams on blast, but there's a couple teams where I'm like, you could play a week 0 game, and I know you play a week 0 game. You guys should play one another, but it just hasn't happened yet. All right. So that's our preview. That's the NAIA 99, the games that we're going to have our eye on going into week 0. There's a bunch of other games. We'll talk about that in 2 weeks. Next week, we'll get into our predictions. We'll go through it conference by conference. We did it last year. We'll talk about how I picked them. Pat can tell me if I'm wrong. And I might do a little research to see how I actually did last year. I know you and I talked about it. You thought some of my conference picks were pretty well spot on with what we said. I want to go back and look at the hard facts on that, but that is this program. So for all intents and purposes, Pat, we are in overtime. We've gone over our time, but we got a couple minutes here. Anything that we're missing? Anything that we've forgot to talk about in the world of football?
No, I don't think so. I just remember last year for week 0, all the big time Division I games, it was like Ohio State, Texas. I'm watching Morningside Benedictine instead.
Heck yeah.
Seriously.
Heck yeah. I was too. I was at Morningside Benedictine last year.
I know. And then I was going to take a peek at Kalen DeBoer and the Alabama Crimson Tide. They were playing Florida State last year. I'm like, I'm going to go back to Benedictine and Morningside because that was not going well for our friend Kalen. So anyway, like you said, week 0 games, I am on board with NAIA football. I think they're going to be great. Going to be really, really exciting. So good stuff. And I'm excited. I'm very jealous of you in the Copper game in Butte because I tell you what, I'm very fortunate. I think I've been to 41 of the 50 states at this point. There's a few that odd ones too I've not been to. But Montana, Jason, is one of my all-time favorites. I don't have fond memories being there because I used to got our team got our butts kicked by Carroll College, but one of the most beautiful places on earth. Yes. It really is. I love the state of Montana. Just gorgeous. And I'd love to go there just for fun. I've really never done that. But I'm jealous about you getting to go to the Copper game in Butte.
Yeah, I'm pretty stoked. It's definitely a different vibe than when I first started going to Montana, and it was to do these games and get there for the games. I didn't really have a lot of chance to check things out. Through the adult life, and especially where I live now in North Dakota, I've been to Montana a handful of times, and got to see the other things out there, and I've got to go to have Butte as part of our vacation stop when we went a few years ago, and really just loved the city, loved the community when we were there. Nice little brewery down the road, a couple really good places to eat there. So I'm looking forward to it. It's going to be a quick trip for me because my work travels that week actually have me in Chicago Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday. So I'll fly out Thursday morning into Bozeman, drive from Bozeman to Butte, be there for the game that night, fly back Friday. So it's going to be a pretty quick trip to Butte this year. Not going to have much vacation plans because I need to, after being gone the entire week for my actual job, I need to probably make sure I'm home for the family for, I'm not missing them over this hobby thing that I do as well.
Yeah. But it's going to be awesome. I'd want to go to Montana when it's not sub-zero.
Yeah.
I'd like to go there then, which I've been there once when it's not under 20 degrees. So,
yeah.
But it is beautiful. I love it.
Yeah, it can be pretty rough in the November, December months. But yeah, in the summer and fall, it's great. It's fantastic. I mean, North Dakota's a lot the same too, man. Like people up here, when it gets, hot, we'll call it, start, shuddering. But people like me that grew up in the southern portion, I guess you could say, of the Midwest, or the middle portion of the Midwest, and is kind of used to the heat and loves the heat. Like, yeah, summers are fantastic up in these parts. So, But anyway, so I digress. So that's coming up. Made a few changes to the website that I'm sure everybody can check out. And the whole donate thing, just a reminder on that. Yeah, if you want to donate, great. If you don't, it's fine. You can continue to consume this content for free, and we'll keep going as long as we're both able to.
How do people donate, Jason? On the website, there's a way of doing it?
Yeah, if you go to victorysportsnetwork.com, there's a link up top says donate. You click, and it takes you a link on PayPal, which you can also pay via Venmo. I also will post it about once a week on X, like the link to click and do all that. And it's any dollar amount, anything from $25 to $125 or $1,000. $1,000 would be pretty cool if you guys did that. But it's anything, and it's just, hey, it's fans of it. I think I have found, the people that are most passionate about NAIA football are the parents, are the fans. And I look at some of the things that we waste $25-$50 on. Hey, why not waste $25-$50 here? Get a couple hundred of those. We're able to do some travel to the national championship game, pay for the website, then I'm not paying it out of pocket, and we keep things free. Because the other reason I really went this way, Pat, so Google ads, and God bless Google ads, you can make some money doing that when you have a website like the Victory Sports Network and having the Google ads on there. But you go to the site and it overtakes like your entire experience of trying to read a freaking article, and you're scrolling, and then this pop-up thing comes, and then this thing comes here. And I could do a whole bunch of programming and make sure the ads stay exactly. I don't have time for that, especially for the amount of money that was being made out that. Like, yes, did it cover operating expenses? Yeah, absolutely it did. But it was also just a giant pain. And then some of the ads that are up there, you're like, what? This is dumb. This is dumb. And I know some of it's based on logarithm, but some of it's based on, oh, you're a sports website, so we're going to advertise this on your site. I just didn't like it. Rather keep it free, keep the information out there for everybody to see, because why put up a roadblock or a barrier to information about NAIA football when it's already so tough to get information on NAIA football?
Yeah. Yeah. Any bit would help, folks. Again, to keep this thing rolling the way it has for 4 years now. At least this podcast, and obviously the website much longer and previous to the past 4 years. So,
yep. Pat and I want to see one another in Fort Worth this year. So if you can make that happen, great. If not, I don't know, might happen anyway. At that point, we have to talk to our wives.
Honey, can I go, please?
Can I please go? We're going to have to spend our own money. Can I have $20 for lunch?
We could stay at my sister's house if we had to.
We could.
It's a bit of a drive, but yeah, we could stay there if we had to.
Of course. I actually found out last year too. I had two buddies from college that actually lived a lot closer to the game site than what I thought. I hadn't even reached out to them, and I got bro, you should let me know. I'm just like 5 miles from there. I'm like, oh,
really?
My bad. Yeah. So whoops-a daisy. All right. So any final thoughts, Pat? We'll wrap this thing up.
No, no. Summer marching right along, and yeah, I'm busy with work, and yeah, hockey season kicking off here. Practice starts for the boy next week. New hockey team up in Ohio, and yeah, travel. Gonna be fun. Gonna be traveling all over the Midwest and Canada this year, so that's what we're doing.
I did get myself a Shoresy Set the Tone T-shirt. I think I
We
sent you that.
gotta
Yeah,
set the
I
tone,
think
boys.
got to set the tone. So you make sure your son sets the tone out there. That's
Well,
what I
he
keep.
starts contact this year, Jason, so it's going to be interesting. But he's not the type of like physical player. As big as I am, my son's a kind of a skill guy, but his team is huge, Jason. They're 13. You got to see these monsters. They're absolutely enormous. And he's kind of a little guy, so he's more of like the skilled centerman. So, yeah,
I
go
get it,
figure.
man. When I
Go
was
well.
13, I was as tall as I am right now. I mean, probably checking
Me as
in
well.
about 185, 190. Well, I was thinking about 185 when I was 13.
I think at 13,
Is
I
that
was
is that seventh grade?
seventh grade. I was
Seventh grade.
6'1". I think I was 6'1", 180.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I was checking in just a little under 6 foot. I was probably about 165, 170 as a seventh grader. When I got into eighth grade, I got up to 185, 190, and then
I
just
was
got
fully
fat.
grown. I was fully grown in eighth grade,
Yeah.
pretty much.
Yeah.
By ninth grade,
I
for
did.
sure, I was.
Yep. I've not. Yeah. The eighth grade physical was the last year that we saw that 6 foot mark hit. And then it's been that ever since. It's actually,
Yeah.
according to my last physical, probably because of degeneration of my spinal cord, I've
Right.
actually think I've shrunk a 1/4 inch. So I guess there's worse things.
Yeah, it's amazing. Yeah, my son is not that. He's a little guy. He's like 5'5", maybe. So we'll see.
He'll blow up.
Keep away from all the trees out there on the
There
ice
you
the
go.
first few games. So we'll see how it goes. But
Yeah. Get all the skill stuff now. And then he gets the
yeah,
size that comes in after that. We're
we'll
going to be
see.
going to NHL games here in 10 years.
Gotta set the tone though, Pop.
Got to set the tone. All right.
Set the tone.
Well, Pat, as always, I appreciate you setting the tone on the NAI football season. For Pat Donley, I'm Jason Dannelly. This has been NAI Football with Dannelly and Donley, which you can check out at victorysportsnetwork.com. Be sure to like, follow, subscribe on YouTube and all the social media and all of those fun things. We'll be back next week, 7 o'clock Eastern, 6 o'clock Central on Sunday nights for NAI Football with Dannelly and Donley. Again, Pat, thank you. I'm Jason Dannelly. Everybody have yourself a great weekend and get on out there and enjoy some NAI football.